Oh, come on! Like comedy, there's truth in negative reviews. There are exceptions, though. That chick who gave a toy for toddlers 1 star on Amazon because her cat didn't like it, well, she's the type of person who double masks in a car when driving alone, and as a result, anything she says should be dismissed. But the guy who gave mostly coherent points about his TV not working after 6 months, or the guy who complained that his dry cleaners stole and kept his nice Joss A. Banks wooden hangers, and this is totally not something that actually happened to me 5 years ago that I still remember. Yeah, there's truth in those reviews. I bring this all up because I first saw Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth available on Steam a while back. I try to keep tabs on upcoming games that I may be interested in, and most often, a lot of these indie games come available on Steam long before they do on consoles. So I was about to buy it when I checked the often hilarious Steam reviews first, and they were a lot more mixed than I expected. So since my spider sense was tingling, and that's totally not a euphemism, I held off and didn't get it. Turns out it came available on Xbox Game Pass December 16th, so I decided to try it. It's a Meh-troidvania, so of course I'm going to compare it to the usual games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Bloodstained, Touhou Luna Nights, which I'm sorry in advance if I got that mispronounced, and many others, and I didn't like it nearly as much as those. Allow me to get into why. But before that, I just want to remind you that if you like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe as I'm nearing 500 subscribers, and that would be a fun little milestone to reach. So back to Lodoss War. First and foremost, you don't need a familiarity with the anime to enjoy the game. It's fairly light on story, with you playing as Deedlit, a character from the original series. You do encounter other characters that fans will recognize, but again, you don't necessarily need to know who any of them are, and the most important ones are going to be explained. That said, most of the dialogue is really cryptic and doesn't tend to explain much about anything until later in the game. Personally, I hate this type of writing because most of the time I'm just irritated that everybody's saying a lot of nothing but trying to sound interesting. Sort of like 90% of the conversations you'll hear on a college campus at any given time. So while the game is a Meh-troidvania and features a large map, it really felt like one of the more linear games of that type that I've played in a while. There's not a lot of exploration, and you'll mostly just plow through enemies to get to the next boss fight. It's basically going from one hallway to the next, fighting and getting to a locked door, then you'll backtrack to the other hallway you didn't try, and find a save point and a boss. This is basically the whole game. To prove that there was little exploration, when I beat the game, I had cleared 95% of the map just going where I was supposed to. Compare that with games like Symphony of the Night, where you're encouraged to try different areas and, explore, and not just look around and go, okay, nothing to do here, and then go to the only open path to fight the boss. The boss fights are where the game gets fun, though. There's a ton of them, and they range from fights with giant dragons or duels with other human characters, and some were actually challenging and took me several tries to take down. Some of those deaths were from the combat feeling kind of mediocre in some ways, though. Specifically, the game lets you change your elemental affinity at any given time, either wind or fire. Depending on which you are, you'll absorb elemental damage of the same type, and that'll refill your magic bar. That magic bar is not only for the obvious magic attacks, but also as ammo for your bow. So this system mimics the shooter Ikaruga, which does basically the same thing. It's at times kind of fun to smash something that's weak to whatever element you have equipped, but it's also annoying to have to switch on the fly when you just tried damaging an enemy, only to realize you had the wrong element equipped and they just guarded all the damage that you would have done otherwise. The combat itself is reminiscent of Castlevania, but is rougher around the edges. You have the ability to attack straight ahead, diagonally, and up, but if you're trying to hit diagonally, then you're stuck moving at the same time. Likewise, if you're using the bow, you usually have to stop moving to hold the shoot button down, aim the bow slowly, and then fire your shots. This leaves you open to attack, and this girl does not take a lot of damage before getting killed. Now to be fair, you can move while you're shooting, but you'll move slowly because it looks like the developers wanted to put all the emphasis on aiming when the bow is out. But if that were the case, why not just map the aiming to the right analog? It doesn't serve a purpose in this game and gives the player more flexibility if they do that. I don't want the game easier, I just want the controls to be less clunky. Now the game isn't actually that difficult if you're deliberate in how you fight, and each enemy has a pattern that you'll get familiar with really quickly. And honestly, you'll have to, because as I said, Deedlit is not only a very squishy character, but she also suffers from horrible knockback whenever she's hit. Take the most irritating knockback deaths in a Mega Man or Castlevania game you can think of, and now double the amount of distance those guys flew backward, and you'll get an idea of how much it sucks to get hit in this game. I don't know how many times I entered a room, got blindsided by an enemy, and was sent sailing backward into the screen I just came from. Getting juggled around like that alone will get you at least half of your deaths in this. Graphics-wise, the game looks great. Deedlit's animations almost mirror Alucard's from Castlevania, right down to the running, the shadows she leaves behind when she moves, and even the way her harem moves as she's running around is just like his. The game is colorful and the enemies start pretty standard, but then they get larger and a lot more menacing as you progress through the game. The music is mostly good as well, with lots of synthesized tunes that sound like they're right out of a Castlevania game. So at the end of the day, this game isn't terrible, I just didn't end up liking it as much as I thought I was going to. Between the clunky combat and the lack of any real exploration in this game, I felt like I was just rushing from one boss room to the next before finally finishing it. It's not a long game, it can be cleared in a few hours, so if you're curious about whether you'd still like it, then by all means give it a shot on Game Pass and you'll probably clear it in a weekend without even really trying. I wouldn't spend more than $10 on it though. That's it for this review, and thanks for watching. Congratulations! You're one of an elite few to make it to the end of the video. Reward yourself by hitting the round subscribe button in the middle, and then check out the other goodies I've got in the links next to it.